When she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, no diamond.
There are many places in Mexico that many outsiders, for whatever reason, never get a chance to see. Villages locals call Mexico Real, the real Mexico. For example, here, along Mexico's largest freshwater lake, Lake Chapala, 30 minutes south of Mexico's second largest city, Guadalajara, in Jalisco State. Here, far removed from the often nasty news we hear about Mexico, are images of peace and tranquility, where there are a lot of foreigners, U.S. citizens, Canadians, and British citizens, everywhere. So many of them, most Mexicans here don't even pay attention to them anymore. Perhaps thinking, well, what are you going to do? Particularly here in the village of Ajijic. Nowadays, there are as many foreigners here as there are Mexicans, around 15,000.
We're in a place called Paradise. This is Ajijic, Mexico.
Minnesota native Terry Vidal is the executive director of the nonprofit Lake Chapala Society, the ground zero meeting place, you might call it, for foreigners here located in the center of Ajijic.
We're essentially the social hub of the foreign community, lakeside. Essentially, we're a multicultural center with a mission of having an integrated community where everybody is working together to maintain and improve our quality of life lakeside.
Terry says the population of foreigners here fluctuates depending on the time of year. Some live here full-time, others come down for the winter.
There's at least 7,000, up to 17,000 foreigners here. We're at 5,000 plus feet. We're at the same height as Denver. And with the lake, it kind of maintains a fairly constant, nice climate.
The average year-round temperature here is around 68 degrees Fahrenheit. 20 Celsius. Why did you come here?
I married a Mexican gal. I left my career behind and got the heck out.
What do you miss? Do you miss anything?
I don't miss U.S. politics. I think that that's the best thing about living here. There's a lot of push immigration going on right now with people leaving the United States because of the political situation. And we're seeing it here.
We have a lot of new faces in the town.
Ajijic wheeler and dealer realtor Mario Garcia, here at accesslakechapala.com, sells and rents homes here.
You can get a nice house from, let's say, $200,000. You can have a really nice house in the area. Rent. Okay, we can start with studios. We can say $350 for a place to rent, even all inclusive. That means electricity, gas, internet, telephone, cleaning, gardener, everything for $350.
Mario's office pretty busy lately with new arrivals from the States and Canada.
Okay guys, so are you ready to rent a house?
Yes, we are.
Okay, sure.
Showing up in Mario's office today, U.S. citizens Fred and Sandy Garcia.
Sandy, where's the deposit money?
Well, let me see. I think it's right here.
Who sold their home and all their belongings back in Arkansas and are presently putting down rent deposit for a place they found here for less than $1,000 a month. The reason they're leaving the U.S., they say, is primarily because of the political change in Washington after the recent presidential election.
It was the direction that the country was going, and with the election,
Over a lot of time.
it just solidified that negative decline that we are observing.
We view ourselves more as a part of humanity, not a particular country.
Yeah.
I feel that's, you've got to take care of all of humanity, not just pick and choose.
We have this beautiful home. We have a great life here.
It was humanitarian work, more than coming here to retire, that brought Ruthie and Charles Baker to Ajijic. Selling their home and all they had in Dallas, Texas a few years back, and paying less than $200,000 cash for this fully furnished turnkey home outside of Ajijic. Ruthie started baking and making chocolate sweets here from home and now sells them in her local shop that she's opened up here in Ajijic when she realized U.S. citizens here were missing these kinds of sweets back home. She and Charles, who retired from a career in the shipping and delivery business back in Texas, then decided to start giving back to Mexicans here.
The biggest thing you have to worry about is getting run over. Yeah. But other than that...
For example, all profits from their shop go toward buying fresh produce and other food supplies each week.
Yeah, this is the milk we buy.
That they deliver here to a nonprofit home for orphaned boys outside of town, called Hope House. Hope House was founded by fellow U.S. expat Tina Dutro and her husband, who moved here from Tennessee 15 years ago to help these boys.
The first thing we do is we just try to teach them love. A lot of the boys have been neglected, abused, left on the streets. They've been beaten. They've experienced life that no one should have to experience. And so the first thing is just to show them love.
Where are you saying, Charles?
He just arrived.
Yeah, whenever you...
We'll get him to the dentist.
Pollito?
Pollito? ¿Quién es esta?
Ruthie and Charles say it's these kind of interactions U.S. citizens here have with Mexicans that is not often heard about back in the States.
I can tell you what I think why that happens is because the U.S. media puts out the worst of the worst to the American public. They want to show Mexico and Mexicans as bad as they can. And in my opinion, they want it to be so that Americans stay in the U.S., spend their money there, don't come to Mexico and spend their money on vacation, don't come to Mexico to retire and spend their money here.
Charles says he and Ruthie are reminded why moving to Mexico, they say, was the right move every time they return to the U.S. to visit family.
Every time we go home to Texas, in the U.S., there is a shooting, whether it be at a church, whether it be at a school, whether it be at a business, whether it be at a mall, a theater. Every time we go back.
People don't live like that here.
We don't have guns. I don't have a gun. Could I get a gun? Yes. I can get a gun off the street. I don't want a gun. And I grew up with guns, and I don't want one, and I don't need one.
Guns are illegal here in private hands in Mexico. Of course, many criminals have them around the country, though most law-abiding citizens here agree no one needs a gun. In fact, they say not one foreigner here in Ajijic has been the victim of a violent crime dating back to the earliest arrivals here in the 1940s. When it comes to health care, seniors here enjoy reduced medical costs for surgeries to medication that are said to be a third or less of the costs in the United States. And here on La Paz Street is what the average assisted living facility looks like in a converted lakeside mansion run by licensed Mexican geriatric specialist Alonso Garcia. The cost to stay at a high-end facility like this in the United States would be about $5,000 a month or more. Here,
they paid an average of, I would say, $1,500 a month with the home care, 24/7 care, 3 meals, 2 snacks in between, physical therapy, and we do different kind of activities for all of them. The difference between here and the States, I think for Mexicans, main thing is family. For us, and is something not new, it comes from our culture, from the Aztecs, Mayans. The elders are the people who have the knowledge and all our respect. So all our respect and is for them, and we will take care of them no matter what.
Every Sunday, hundreds of foreign residents here gather for what's called the Open Circle. That begins with meditation,
I love you,
followed by stimulating presentations about culture and the arts and life. Today they listen to a presentation called Mark Twain, the Anti-Bigot.
He concluded that unless man and woman are equal in every way, civilization cannot exist.
Seen here videotaping these presentations each Sunday is 80-something Canadian filmmaker Roy Nolan, the local hero for working with aspiring young Mexican filmmakers, passing along his knowledge as an acclaimed film director in the U.S., dating back to the Summer of Love in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 60s.
So kiss me and smile for me.
Roy chronicling the lives of many noted musicians from back in the day.
Peter, Paul, and Mary, and those kind of people.
Roy lives alone in a rustic hacienda he paid less than $200,000 for on lush grounds with citrus trees right off the lake, with his collection of furry friends.
Doggy, my doggy, Sombra. That's Mama, and that's Sweetie.
Here in what he calls the shadow of Mount Garcia on the south side of Lake Chapala, away from most foreigners living across the lake in Ajijic.
I'm not against being with people, but I can only take them for so long. You know?
He says there's no way he could work and live like he does here back in the United States.
Here in Mexico, it's totally different. I can live very, very comfortably on less than $1,000 a month. It's very, very comfortable. And I eat better than if I was back in the States. It's all growing here. Anything you want in Mexico, it's all here.
When it comes to food, foreign residents here and Mexican farmers have teamed up to grow and sell organic produce each week at the popular organic market here. That's a major selling point to the area, says realtor Mario Garcia.
We cannot survive without Americans or Canadians. We depend a lot about the Americans and the Canadians. We are like a family.
An unrivaled melting pot and quality of life here among foreigners and Mexicans, says U.S. transplant Lou Raskin.
Well, Mike, welcome to my casa.
Who at 80 runs the stairs to his $1,000 a month condo rental as if he's in his 40s. Life here, says Lou, reminds him of the life he once enjoyed in the U.S. back in 1976, he says.
So you were working for the president?
As one of then-President Gerald Ford's main organizers of the country's grand year-long bicentennial birthday celebration.
We'll remember that time when literally millions and millions of people were together in friendship and love and appreciation for the United States of America. And then I began to see a little bit of a downslide in that feeling of pride for the country. I decided I needed to go somewhere else. So here I ended up in a wonderful community of Mexico.
Where Lou saw the vision of his next chapter in life. Doing comedy improv before his community here in Ajijic at the Bravo Theater.
Do you have a need to know what I believe?
Among those in attendance here tonight is British citizen Rosemary Grayson, a living legend here in Ajijic. The Playboy bunny charm around Rosemary's neck gives one a hint of her past life in Great Britain. Back in 1964, she was England's very first Playboy magazine centerfold. At the time under the name Rosemary Hillcrest, she says, to save her family any grief for what back then was a bit of a scandal.
Yeah, I was the first, I'm proud to say, I'm the first British Playboy centerfold.
Today, Rosemary's a local journalist who says as a Brit, she shares some of the frustrations U.S. citizens here have about the political situation in their respective countries.
There's a lot of Americans here who are saying, I'm really ashamed of the Stars and Stripes. I'm really, and that's a pity. But equally, I must say, in the UK, their government is in tatters too. So, you know, who's got the worst, the most, who's going to be the most ashamed, I ask myself.
I need a hero.
She says today in Ajijic, anyway, the trend for many foreigners is to share life's stage with Mexicans, most of whom she sums up in a word:
civilized is the word, civilized, and they are always very polite. Their sense of humor is to die for. Really, really funny. And they have caring and politeness and love, and that's all in their DNA. And it's because they are family-based.
The mix of Mexicans and foreigners performing here at Ahihik's Bravo Theater tonight, some say seems to be living proof that there's a whole new lease on life for foreigners here. And that, at least here in Ahihik, Mexico, there's no place like home.
Most of the foreigners, the gringos, are nice people, but the native people are the best. So I love it here. This is my home.